Hello, church. My name is Tim Hogenboom, and I'm one of the pastors here, and just is a privilege to serve here for you here at KC. I'm on staff. I have the privilege of seeing so many things that happen behind the scenes, stuff that's day to day for us, and yet I fully realize that you don't get to see all those things. So this month, like every month, I just wanted to take a moment. Thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching this, it's probably because you kind of want to know some of the behind the scenes of what's happening. That's what the purpose of today is to really give you a snapshot of all the things that are happening in behind the scenes here at KC, because there's just tons of things happening. So thanks for joining in. Let's start with our monthly update. So first off, we have for the month of February, the financials. We have the budget for total revenue of $131,000 for the month. We actually saw 127 come in, so just below that. Total expenses were slated for 150, but they came in at 138. So what does that mean? At the end of the day, that means that we were budgeted to lose 19,000, but in actuality, we lost 11,000. So that means we're actually ahead of what we wanted to by about $8,000 or so, give or take. The important one, what does this actually mean for the entire year in total? And this is kind of a revealing one. Total year to date, we had a budget for 1.3 million so far in revenue. We actually have only seen about 100 or 1.2 million come in so far. I'll get to that. The expenses are 1.2 million. The actual expenses is 1.1 million. So what does that actually mean? We were sitting at $77,000 where we're expecting to sit. In actuality, we're sitting at 123,000 in total net revenue. But like I've said so often, and it's worth reminding, that includes also monies donated for our restricted funds as well. So again, we have non-restricted or general funds to keep the lights on, clean the parking lot, take up the garbage, those kind of things. Those are general funds. But portion of these funds actually are attributed to the capital campaign as well. And so at the end of the day, those funds can only be exclusively used for capital campaign things. And things are happening, by the way, for the capital campaign. When it comes to the parking lot, we are moving things ahead. So it's exciting to see that come to fruition. But in actuality, we did run behind in December of about 80 grand in total in giving. Now, we've been incrementally making it up. Like I just, on this last slide here, as you can see, we were expected to lose 19 grand, but we actually only lost 11 grand. So we're incrementally making that way. But we are still trying to make up for what was the unexpected shortfall in December. So church, we are so believing in what God can do. Even this week, as we've been talking about finances in different places, he's been faithful and he will continue to be faithful to provide for us as a church moving forward. And that involves you. It involves all of us to link arms together and to have faith and to be able to say, yes, we're in this together because the kingdom work needs to be done. The fields are ripe. The harvest is ripe. So Casey, consider joining us, linking arms with us, and being able to contribute to the work that's being done here to move ministry forward. Move ministry forward because the kingdom needs it. So church, thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for stepping up. It is such a gift, such a privilege to be able to serve you the way that we do. Just a quick overview on the budget versus actual. So what we've seen this year is we have a shortfall so far, about $86,000 in total in terms of what we have expected for total revenue. Okay, ongoing ministries. Church, there are so many things happening here. These very funds that we just talked about allow these very ministries to happen. And there is so many good things. Alpha is got, as of right now, we're almost wrapping up Alpha. And there's so many of these great conversations happening around the table. So many questions being asked and so many relevant and deep, insightful conversations around what does it mean? Talk to me about the Christian experience. What does it mean to be Christian? Tell me about Jesus. These are the very real things that we're discussing. And it's so good, meaningful conversations happening. We have Rooted, which is almost wrapping up as well. And again, these are a journey of discipleship. What are the rhythms and practices of a Christian? What does it mean to read scripture, to be in confession, to have a prayerful life? What does it mean to serve? These are all part of the Christian journey. And so again, in those conversations, in that context, the conversations have been really, really good. These are things happening day in, week over week here at the church. One that just kicked up and started up is Grief Share. And that's actually a collaboration with other churches in our community. We aren't the sole church. In fact, we, the big church, have a mission to accomplish, and we are only a part of that. And so in us being able to collaborate and work with the other churches to say, this Grief Share program is for those who've lost loved ones, who need a space and a place to decompress and to work through, to grapple with. And so Grief Share is something that we have been able to collaborate with other churches for, and we would love to see this be an ongoing resource for our community, done at different churches, collaborating with different churches throughout the year. So that's been kicked off this year, and it's been so good. We've had so many people sign up for this, and it just shows the need for people to have a real in-depth discussion, as is for Alpha, as is for Rooted, so it is for Grief Share, in that people need places and spaces to have those deep conversations. And then finally, speaking about deep conversations, is Genesis. I took Genesis a couple years ago, and it was really uncomfortable. It was really uncomfortable because I started to ask the very deep questions of what I believed about myself and how I saw myself and the things in my own world that tainted my vision. And so what this allows for to happen is that you start to unmine what happens and what's inside of you. And he starts to peel back kind of the narratives in your heart. And so we just wrapped up with Genesis. We had 24 people go through this process, 24 people who gathered weekly together in a small group and asked the hard, meaningful questions about their own lives and what they experienced. And in that, we had a celebratory dinner here last week where we had 50 people show up. And these were not only the participants, but it was friends and families and those praying for those people who are going through that process. So church, this is just a quick overview. This is kind of what's happening week after week, but these are the things that are making a difference in the kingdom work. And then there's Pine House happening. Pine House, this is one of our exciting initiatives that we're doing this year. We're collaborating with Pine House in Saskatchewan. And we're going to send a bunch of youth over there and to minister and to understand and to work with and to serve in a ministry context. And then the exciting part is we're actually going to bring a bunch of people from Pine House actually to Kamloops here in August. And so there's an exchange happening where we get to serve them and then they get to come here and they get to serve and we get to serve alongside of them. And so this is the church on mission. This is us actually going out and accomplishing the great commandment to go out and reach the nation. So church, this is us on mission. It is exciting. It is so good. It is so good. So church, things are happening. Things are happening. And it's exciting to be part of it. I'm going to move it over and we're going to have our interview with Amy, who is on staff. And it was just a great interview, a great chance to explore her heart and to kind of unpack what her journey has been and where God is leading her. So welcome to this month where we have the opportunity, as always, to connect with one of our staff members and kind of get a better understanding where they're at and who they are and what they do, what role they play, and so on and so forth. And so today, Amy and I get a chance to chat about Amy and about the things that Amy does here at KAC. So, Amy, who are you? What do you do? Tell us about how you got here.
Yeah.
Let's start somewhere.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Amy. I work in the youth department with Cody. I'm the youth ministry director. So I get to hang out with teenagers for my job. It's really fun. I really enjoy it. I've been working here for just over 3 years now. I've started in near the end of 2019. A bit about me. KC has been my home for a long time.
How long?
Love y'all. Oh gosh. I think I was around 17 when I started attending regularly. It was definitely Project 7 that brought me in. So friends were doing it and I was like, ooh, I want to do that. And this was my church home before that, but I was not coming regularly. But then once I started doing the program and coming to youth more, I was like, I should probably go to church on the weekend. So that's kind of how my journey started. Yeah.
So what do you, Project 7, for those of us who don't know what Project 7 is, bring us in on Project 7. Why, how did that play into it? Why does it matter? Why do we care?
Yeah, I always talk about Project 7, and I realize nobody else knows what this is. So what Project 7 was our discipleship leadership training program for youth and young adults. And so Pastor Tim led it for a number of years, and it was just an opportunity for you to learn about Jesus, learn how to be a leader, and honestly just be discipled well. And so I really love that because I love the mentorship aspect, the learning aspect. Like, I got so deep in my faith so fast because I was just like, you have to learn, and then you get to serve as well. Like, that was awesome. That's how I actually got into youth ministry. Like, I was a bit of an outsider for attending, but once they're like, you can serve, I was like, oh yeah, this is way more fun. So I got to do hospitality, and then I interned. And so basically Project 7 was just the way that I got involved at KC. So
it's one thing to say I'm on the outsider, I went through Project 7, discipleship, yes. But now you're in ministry. Like, that's a huge shift. So like, tell me more about how you got into the ministry. Why ministry? Why are you here? Why are you doing it? Why does it matter? Why?
Yeah. I think my story is a bit unique. Like, I never realized I wanted to do ministry. Like, that wasn't ever something that was on my radar. But it just was like a continual set of opportunities and doors opening before me and me saying yes. So the internship position opened and I was like, I don't know, that's not really my shtick, but I'll apply. Why not? And then I got it. And I was like, oh, I actually, this is really stretching, but I really like this. And then it was like, oh, you can be a leader in Project 7 for the student leaders. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm not necessarily equipped, but well, I was, but I didn't know it at the time. And so I said yes. And then it was I was one day talking to Pastor Cody and I was like, okay, theoretically, if I was going into ministry, it was an option. I was in university at the time. I was like, what would be a pathway? And it was the Lord. It was an open door. But he's like, yo, this program just followed us on Instagram and it's based out of Kelowna. And it was called the Coalition for Youth Ministry Excellence. And basically what it is it's a school for youth workers and youth pastors to come and get their degree in youth ministry while working in a church. And so I, at that point, got hired onto staff and started getting my schooling for a degree in youth ministry. And
okay, so you're in schooling now.
Yes.
Whilst doing the tomfoolery and shenanigans of youth all at the same time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. What year are you in for schooling?
So I'm technically in my third year. So I've graduated the Coalition. It was a 2-year program, but I've moved on to more online schooling. So
why youth?
Why youth?
Why youth ministry?
Yeah, great question.
I know. I asked it.
I think it's definitely the Lord has put youth as the people that I was designed to love. And I think it's because part of it is one, you don't have to take yourself seriously around youth. You can just be silly. You can just be yourself. Kids nowadays are way more interested in if you're real rather than cool or hip, as the kids would say. And also I remember being that age, and it's so hard to be a teenager nowadays. And I remember people who were there for me, and it was so impactful to how, the choices I made and how I ended up being okay through a lot of hard things. And I want to be that support for those kids. And I want to walk alongside them. And also, people say teenagers are scary. They really aren't. They are just kids who are kind of adults, but also not at all. So, yeah, I think the why, I don't know. This is where God's led me, and I've just been faithful to that.
We live in a world that is struggling with a lot of identity issues and a lot of just trying to figure out. And so the demographic that you're working with is probably one of the most hardest hit in terms of just their struggle, even in their walk in life. And then you pack on top of that the pressures of the world. What are you facing? What's the hardest part about what you're doing in that role as you're trying to navigate journey with kids who are, mini adults, if you will? Like, tell me about kind of the biggest challenges you face in that world, in that position, in that journeying along with.
Yeah. I think, like you said, like identity and like who you are and like what you believe is the hardest question to answer for everyone. But this is the first part of their life where they're actually really starting to wrestle with that. Like, of course, adults wrestle with this, but kids, it's their first time being like, who am I? Because when you're a kid, you're just a kid. You don't care about that stuff. But it really starts to come to light as you get older. Like, who am I? So what choices do I make to kind of further who am I and show that to people? And so I think the hardest thing is just honestly helping them believe what God says about them is true. Like, they say it and they accept it, but then you see that they're just still so overwhelmed by everything everybody else says about them. And like, it's not my job to make them believe what God says about them, but it's my job to walk alongside them during that. And yeah, honestly, a lot of it is just like walking with them. Cause like, I don't know, this might seem obvious, but it's their first time doing this. Like, it's their first time being a teenager. It's their first time going through high school. It's their first time like doing life. And so they don't know how. And so it's just my job, and I think youth workers' job, to just walk with them through this.
What you see perspective, you see, these young adults or these older kids, however you see them in a space that maybe sometimes we as adults don't see them in. What would you say? What would you say to parents? What would you say to adults? What would you say to the older demographic as you're living, breathing this world? What is it that you would like them to know, or about your heart, about what you're seeing, about where there's, what do you want us to hear?
Well, two things. The first thing is like, as much as when you're a teenager, someone who's kind of recently just a teenager, like you want that connection. Like, kids want connection. They want people in their life. They want to be seen. They want to know that they belong. And so at youth, we're like, yes, God is your Heavenly Father. You are fully seen. You are fully known. And we try to live that out for them. Is we are here to fully see you, get to know you, and also fully love you. And so I think just for the older generation, like, they're just struggling to belong and feel seen and known. And like, secondly, like, you're never too old to kind of jump into the youth world. So this is a call for volunteers. But seriously, as I was thinking about this, like, what holds people back from volunteering? And I think, maybe you feel like you're not relevant, or you don't that's so far removed from your lifestyle. Like, you don't have kids, or your kids are grown up. But I think there's a space for every type of person in youth ministry. Cause like, we get kids and they're like, I'm too mature for this. Like, I don't really care about games. Like, I want to dive into my relationship with God. And so having people who are maybe more serious, we need those type of people. And maybe you're like, well, I'm older. The kids don't care. I'm not relevant anymore. Wrong. You're still relevant, because you can be a person who can see them, make them feel like they belong, and love them. And that's what they need. And so I think, like, we just want people, all different stages of lives, all through their walk with Christ, to just speak into these kids' lives. Like, there's a stat that's super popular in the youth world. It's like, each child needs like 5 positive influences, like adult influences in their life to thrive. And it's like, okay, one youth leader, parent, coach, other youth leader, like, you guys can be that for these kids. So I don't know. I would just call people to get involved.
What's your vision? What do you see 5 years from now? What gets you excited? Tell us about what you dream about.
I just get excited because I see like the kids now, like the grade 9s, grade 10s, and I'm like, you guys are already leaders. Like, I can't wait till I can hand off the reins to you guys. And it gets me excited because they are already so passionate and already pursuing Jesus so much, already saying like no to things that are like to sports and to extra school, like that kind of stuff, to say yes to youth and to lean into leadership opportunities. And so my excitement and my vision for KAC Youth is that we'll just continually like lead kids into loving Jesus more. And how amazing would it to be to have our leaders be the kids who like walked through youth, getting more involved so that they can like kind of repeat the pattern. That just gets me excited to see like our kids, they're gonna be leading in 5 years. Like that excites me so much.
What do we pray for? As you journey through, you're going into your schooling, you're trying to finish that off, you're leading here, you've got many things happening in your world. How can we as a church pray for you?
Great question. I think for me personally, and I think for our ministry and for our kids, just an excitement to be obedient, because sometimes it can feel like, just let me do my thing. Like, this is what's right for me. But also, Jesus does call us to be obedient and to follow his commands. And when we have that opportunity to lean in, we can get comfortable with finding reasons to like step back. And so I think for myself, to be more obedient to Christ's calling in my life, and for our kids to be obedient to following him. So.
We actually started around the same time.
Yeah,
on staff,
we did.
actually. So for whatever that's worth, but it's been such a gift to be able to work alongside you and to see you thrive in the way you're doing. And I'm super excited, like really super excited to see because I know how passionate you are and I know how much you love what you do. And so this is just a great opportunity for the rest of our church to see what I get to see almost every day. So thank you for serving. Thanks for being faithful.
Thank you.
You're a gift to our staff and you're a gift to Kingdom. So you're
Awesome.
amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Church, it is such a gift. Amy's actually such a gift to have on staff. I just love working with her. There's so much joy and there's so much just excitement that bubbles from her, and the way that she navigates and works with youth. Our youth department is blessed. Our church is blessed. We are blessed. The Kingdom is blessed because of the work that Amy does. So thank you, Amy, for your faithfulness in serving our youth and our church. So to that end, church, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to connect, reach out to me. If you have any questions about the parking lot, the answer is yes, we're dealing with it. If you have questions about marking the lines on the parking lot and having proper parking, the answer is yes, we're working on it. These things are happening. We're excited for this summer. Looks like we're going to be able to tackle some of these very issues. So we're looking forward to it. But should you have any questions about anything, regardless ministry or even kind of what information would be helpful in these videos, please reach out to me, timh@kac.ca. Once again, thank you for trusting us. Thank you for trusting me. I'm excited. Let's link arms. Let's move together. The mission is bigger than any of us, to know Jesus and to make him known. Thank you.